Good evening. The 783rd meeting of the City of Laurel Historic District Commission will come to order. If you wish to be heard at this meeting and are not an applicant, please sign the speaker list provided on the table in the front of the room. The qualifications of the members of the commission, the staff to the commission, and any consultants used are on file with the city and are hereby made a part of each and every application heard today. The guidelines and procedures adopted by the commission are also made a part of each and every application. Each application heard today is considered on its own merits and is not to be considered as establishing a precedent for any other application. Madam Secretary, will you call the roll?
Chairwoman Blitz.
Here.
Mr. McSeany.
Here.
Councilman Luz.
Here.
Mr. Clacoon. Mr. DiLorenzo.
Here.
Mr. Dyer. Mr. Douglas. Hayes.
I'm here.
New name. We do have a quorum.
Thank you. The first order of business is the approval of the minutes for the HDC meeting held on March the 17th, 2015. Are there any corrections or comments to the minutes?
Move for approval.
Second.
Who went first? Madam Secretary, a motion on the floor to approve the minutes of March the 17th made by Mr. McSeany and seconded by Councilman Luz. Do you call the roll, please?
Mr. McSeany.
Yes.
Councilman Luz.
Yes.
Mr. DiLorenzo.
Yes.
Mr. Hayes.
Yes.
Chairwoman Blitz.
Abstain. I was not here.
And the motion carries.
Thank you. Agenda item 3 is HDC 0302015 for 217 Main Street. Is there anyone here for that address? Hello. You can come up to the podium, please. And could you state your name for the record, please?
Good evening, my name is Elegance, and I'm representing Ms. Davis.
Okay.
John.
Okay. And we're here to talk about your signs.
Yes, ma'am.
You have one in the front window and one on the side.
Yes, ma'am.
You want to tell us a little bit about them? They're white acrylic with purple.
Yeah, we are some dealer for pieces.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and we have is a national sign that we have. It's a purple color. That's what I'm putting on right now.
Right.
Yeah, and we have it all around in different states in the country.
Mm-hmm.
And we usually put our signs with purple as a background with a white letter.
Mm-hmm.
And in all metro stores, this is what we have.
Okay.
And that's what we have in 217 Main Street, not an exception. That's what we have all over.
Right. But the signs are already up. The signs have been up for some time. Okay. Any questions or comments? I mean, I've seen your commercials on TV. That's the color. Mr. McSeany.
Have you read the design guidelines with respect to signs?
Yes, sir. I went through.
Excuse me?
Yes, sir. I went through it, sir.
You did. Did you notice that the iridescent and neon bright colors are discouraged?
I noticed that section, sir.
Well, they are. Your signs are placed on one of the most beautiful buildings on Main Street. And in my view, they're an absolute distraction to the building. I think they're inappropriate for many or most businesses on Main Street, but especially the building that they're on. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments?
Yeah, you're using a low level of LED lights to light the signs at night, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
They're internal to the sign, correct? Okay.
And do these lights remain, the signs remain lighted all the time, or are they, at some point they,
Yes, sir.
Just at night, okay.
Not during the day.
And all night, even when the business is closed? Or are they turned off then?
We just put them on when we're going. All close.
Okay.
Madam Chair, you understand that you can't have paper signs in the windows, additional signs, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Is that correct?
Yes, I'm working with the applicant to remove the window signage that's currently there.
Okay. You don't want a proliferation of signs on Main Street in the historic district. And there's provisions for temporary signs, but it's frowned upon by the Historic District Commission. Okay? Thank you.
Can I say?
Thank you, Madam Chairperson.
Yes, you may.
Now, we didn't really know about this until we got this gap.
Okay.
That's what.
Your landlord or nobody told you that it was within a historic district and these guidelines were, and this process was something that should be done before there were signs up?
We knew it was a historic district, but the guidelines, specific guidelines, we didn't have
Okay.
in our hands.
And you didn't know that you should have come before you put signs up? But now you know, right? Okay. Okay. With that being said, do we have any motions on the floor?
Madam Chairperson, I'll make a motion that we approve HDC 030-2015, 217 Main Street for the two signs, DC Metro, with the condition that all non-conforming signs are removed from the building within 7 days. Excuse me, from his location, because there's, I think there's three different tenants in there, if I remember correctly.
Yes.
You're gonna make sure they all remove all their, I know you are.
Absolutely.
Okay,
I'm on it.
okay.
I'll second that.
Madam Secretary, I have a motion on the floor to approve HDC 030-2015 as stated by Councilman Les and seconded by Mr. Hayes. Would you call the roll, please?
Councilman Les?
Yes.
Mr. Hayes?
Yes.
Mr. McSeany?
No,
Mr. DiLorenzo?
Yes.
Chairwoman Blitz?
Yes.
And the motion carries.
Okay. Good luck.
Good luck to your business there. I hope you're successful.
So we want to take all the signs out?
Yes, and Christian will speak to you about
The ones that are non-conforming.
Non-conforming.
Yeah, the other
the
side.
other ones.
Kristen will talk to you about that.
Okay,
Thank you, I appreciate it.
thank you.
doesn't make any difference. Makes no difference at all. I mean, I've seen this beautiful house with McDonald's and very nice letters. Look, no McDonald's
Please,
sign ever.
gentlemen, we have additional business. Agenda item number 5 is HDC 036-2015 for 595 Main Street.
Doesn't appear they've come to the
They're
meeting.
not here, okay.
Next meeting.
Too bad.
Just table that till the next meeting. Agenda item 6 is HDC
Excuse me,
038-.
if we postpone it to the next meeting, it'll automatically be approved. I'm not in favor of approving something just because somebody didn't show up.
I didn't think so.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you, Mr. McSeany. I apologize.
There's a 30-day, I think it's a 30-day limit on what we have to approve,
That's correct.
okay? And if we don't make a decision on this within 30 days, it's automatically approved.
Well,
Want it in 30 days?
when was the application? March 26th?
I'm sorry?
When was the application made? March 26th or March 25th or something like that?
Yes.
Well, you can do one of two things. Just a suggestion, we can disprove it because they're not here. Or we could have a meeting at the beginning of next month to fall within or before the 30 days is expired, Mr. McSaney.
What we've been doing is calling it an incomplete application and amend the date.
Is there something in it that can substantiate an incomplete application, other than it doesn't have a date of the application?
I'm sorry.
Is there any, do you know of anything where it's an incomplete application, other than the fact that on the application itself, there is no date of application?
Right. I mean, now that we're having the meeting once a month, the application date has kind of given us a problem. So what I normally do, the application becomes a complete application when I type it up and log it into the book. So we've had a couple where I've amended the date twice. Our number one on the agenda item tonight, or number 3, I've amended the date twice on that. I mean, it's up to the commission how they want to handle it.
Okay, let me just ask a question. If we disapprove this, what happens?
Disapproves, they have to change something. They can't resubmit for like a year, the exact same application.
Or they can appeal to the Board of Appeals.
I guess they
Correct.
can do that.
If I remember correctly, they can appeal. If we disapprove something, they can go to the Board of Appeals. Okay, let's put that aside for a second. We've gone from twice a month to once a month.
Right.
So the 30 days is a problem. Okay, that's in the ordinance, is that correct?
It's in our
Yes.
guidelines, it's in, yeah.
It's in the ordinance, I
Yeah,
think,
I
too,
think
Jim.
that's right.
So one of the things we need to do,
Correct.
Sonny, is you need to carry that back to the administration, that 30 days may no longer be appropriate, that the right thing to do is maybe change that to 45 days,
Correct.
okay? That would be,
Or even 60.
huh? Or
even
60,
60.
you know, whatever if we have no problem with 60, I'm in favor of that too.
Oh, all right.
But we just need to make a change in the ordinance so we don't get caught in doing something for one person and not doing it for another person. Okay.
Correct.
Okay, so that, I'll ask that you carry that back to the administration, and we can put our attorney to work to make the penalty. You can make a very simple change for the change in the ordinance, because that's just a one-liner, if I remember correctly.
Correct.
Okay. That's that issue. Now, let's come back to the original issue that Mr. McSaney has raised, Madam Chairperson.
Yes, sir.
Well,
Mr. Mazzini?
I haven't raised it yet. I'm gonna
I'm
raise it.
waiting for you.
Okay, the other possibility is that we look at it and we decide whether we approve it or not.
That's the last alternative. That's
It looks,
correct.
my comment on it is that it looks very nice. I think it fits into the Patuxent Place motif of the things they do, and I would vote in favor of it.
We have tabled the item in the past also because that is taken an action on it until the next meeting.
Yeah.
I think I like your idea, Mr. Mazzini, with making it easier for the applicant. I agree, though, on this particular application, I thought it was a very nice sign. And I do think it fits in well at the Patuxent Place.
Madam Chairman, I move we approve HDC 036-215 as presented.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Madam Secretary, I have a motion on the floor to approve HDC 0362015, made by Mr. McSaney and seconded by Mr. Hayes. Would you call the roll, please?
Mr. McSaney?
Yes.
Mr. Hayes?
Yes.
Councilman Les?
Yes.
Mr. DiLorenzo?
Yes.
Chairwoman Blitz?
Yes,
And the motion carries.
thank you. Oh, we'll move on to agenda item 6, which is HDC 0382015 for 336 Prince George Street.
Yeah, Brian's not here.
Brian's still not here. Okay, we'll wait and see if he gets here.
Okay.
How about HDC 0402015 for 335 Montgomery? Hello.
Laurel Rogers.
Thank you. And let's see, you're going to install a shed? You want to
Yes.
tell us a little bit about the project?
I want to put an 8x8 shed in the back corner of my yard for like lawnmowers and stuff.
Mhm.
And one I picked out is made by Home Depot. It's a prefab shed, and it is going to be white with brown roof to match my house.
Okay, and is it, when you say prefab shed, it's a wooden shed?
Yeah, it's
This okay. And you're painting it white with brown shingles to match the house?
Yeah.
So- Okay. Any questions or comments on the project? Yes, sir?
Madam Chairman, I move that we approve HDC 040-2015 as presented.
I'll second.
Madam Secretary, I have a motion on the floor to approve HDC 0402015, made by Mr. McSeany, seconded by Councilman Les. Would you call the roll, please?
Mr. McSeany?
Yes.
Councilman Les?
Yes.
Mr. DiLorenzo?
Yes.
Mr. Hayes?
Yes.
Chairwoman Blitz?
Yes.
And the motion carries.
Great, thank you very much. Let's see, agenda item 8 is a tax credit request for 411 4th Street in the amount of $365.70. Any questions or comments on that?
Move for approval, Madam Chairperson.
Do I have a second?
Second?
Madam Secretary, I have a motion on the floor to approve the tax credit for 411 4th Street, made by Councilman Les and seconded by Mr. Hayes. Would you call the roll?
Councilman Les?
Yes.
Mr. Hayes?
Yes.
Mr. McSeany?
Yes.
Mr. DiLorenzo?
Yes.
Chairwoman Blitz?
Yes.
And the motion carries.
Then we have, oh, I see these are, I have a tax credit request for 401 403 Main Street in the amount of $1,208.06.
Move for approval?
I'll second that.
Madam Secretary, I have a motion to approve the tax credit for 401 403 Main Street, made by Mr. Hayes, seconded by Mr. DeLorenzo. Would you call the roll, please?
Mr. Hayes?
Yes.
Mr. DiLorenzo?
Yes.
Mr. McSeany?
Yes.
Councilman Les?
Yes.
Chairwoman Blitz?
Yes.
And the motion carries.
We have another tax credit request for 412 Montgomery Street in the amount of $1,405. Any questions or comments?
Move for approval?
Second it.
Madam Secretary, I have a motion on the floor to approve the tax credit for 412 Montgomery Street, made by Mr. Hayes, seconded by Mr. DeLorenzo. We have another tax credit request for 322 Montgomery Street in the amount of $860.
Mr. Hayes?
Yes.
Oh, I'm sorry, did you call the roll?
No, she didn't call the roll.
I'm sorry.
That's okay. So for item number 10, yes.
Okay. Mr. Hayes?
That's it.
Are we voting on this? This one?
We're still on,
Number 10.
we're still on 10.
Mr. DiLorenzo?
Yes.
Mr. McSeany?
Yes.
Councilman Les?
Yes.
Chairwoman Blitz?
Yes,
And the motion
I'm
carries.
getting ahead of myself. Now we're on 322 Montgomery Street for $860. Sorry. Can I have a motion? We have one more.
Move for approval?
I'll second it.
Madam Secretary, I have a motion on the floor to approve the tax credit for 322 Montgomery Street, made by Mr. McSeany and seconded by Mr. DeLorenzo. Call the roll, please.
Mr. McSeany?
Yes.
Mr. DiLorenzo?
Yes.
Councilman Les?
Yes.
Mr. Hayes?
Yes.
Chairwoman Blitz?
Yes.
And the motion carries.
Okay, then we have a staff approval. Is there any question or comment on that one?
Madam Chairperson,
Oh,
if I
yes,
could.
sir.
Let me come, there was also I want to make sure it's part of the record. I got a staff approval from Sonny for taking trees down in my yard. We got a tree expert over there. One of the front yard was totally dead. The sugar maple in the backyard was dying from where the Baltimore Gas and Electric had topped it. I've been talking about this Colorado blue spruce for a long time. It was too close to the house. There's a water line and a dead oil tank that's right there, and it just gotten too big. But when he went to, so we got approval to take those down. We got a tree expert to come look at the trees. Romeo, I can't get over that. Romeo, the tree expert. But anyways, he had insurance and everything. But more importantly, when he started to trim the cherry tree in the corner, there was also wood borers in that one. So he went ahead and took that one down, he said, because they were inside the tree already. The approval was with the provision that we plant trees back. One tree will be planted back pretty quick. That'll be the cherry tree in the corner, because we're going to come in about 4 feet and plant that one. And then they're going to put a new fence up, and eventually we'll plant 2 more trees of some kind in the backyard and 1 in the front yard. But again, we didn't intend to take the cherry tree down. We just wanted to trim so you could read the sign on the alley. It's always been a problem with some people looking for that alley sign. And he showed me, they all look the same to me. All those wood borers look the same. There's actually 2 kind of wood borers involved. One's in the maple tree, which are black borers, black beetles, and then the one in the cherry tree. So somebody came by and said, "Why did you cut those beautiful trees down?" I said, "Well, 3 of them. 2 of them are dead. One probably was going to die soon, and the other one was just too close to the house." I just want to make sure that's part of the record, because Sonny did issue the
staff approval.
Staff approval for that.
Thank you for that information. Now everybody knows.
Just want to make sure it's part of the record, that's all.
And we haven't addressed HDC 0382015.
Right.
Is the opinion that we could do the same thing that we did with the other one without the applicant, Mr. Massini?
I think so.
Mr. Coyle has been doing excellent work.
Which one we talking about now?
38.
Brian Coyle.
Oh, Brian, where he took the chain link fence down. He's going
He
to
wants to
put
put
a
a
fence back
picket
up.
fence and paint it white. 3 gates, yes, sir.
The only comment I have is that on the signed application on the back, it's been, there were 3 different heights of the fence, and on my copy, in ink, in blue ink, it says 36 inches. On the typed, this version of it, it doesn't have any, indication of the height of the fence. But I'm going to presume, since he signed it, it says, well, I don't know how it went from 3.5 to 43 inches to 36 inches, but 36 is the correct amount.
The fence is governed by the zoning requirement also, so
36 inches.
Isn't he allowed 42 inches in the back or the side?
In the back, but not on the
Behind?
side.
That's
On the
correct.
back and the rear of the property, but not to the sides of the front, because he's on the corner lot, so it can't be higher than 36.
I think that's why our fence didn't start until you got back to where the bump out was, because ours is 42. And we couldn't go any further forward than that with a 42-inch fence.
All right, so 36 is the correct amount?
The correct height, yeah.
Or is he gonna put 42 on that, in the back,
In the back, it'll be 42, in the
Okay.
front and the side, it'll be 36.
36?
He's aware of this?
Yes, I talked to him on the phone.
Okay.
Because this looks like it's your pen from where you signed the staff recommendation, and then it's the same ink, so you are sure.
Right,
So-
when Sonny gave me the information, I noticed that he would be in zoning violation, so I called him, explained that he couldn't exceed 36 inches in the
Yeah.
front and that side, and the rear 42 was okay, and he said, oh, okay. So he's totally aware, and when he fills out his permit, I'll remind him again.
Yes, sir.
Okay, then with the modification that, the fact that it's a 36-inch fence would be added to the standard format of the certificate. I move to approve as presented with that one change.
Second.
Madam Secretary, I have a motion on the floor to approve HGC 0382015 as stated by Mr. McSweeney and seconded by Councilman Les. Would you call the roll, please?
Mr. McSweeney?
Yes.
Councilman Les?
Yes.
Mr. Di Lorenzo?
Yes.
Mr. Hayes?
Yes.
Chairwoman Blitz?
Yes.
And the motion carries.
Okay. Very good.
And what did we do? What did we do with 639 Main Street? Did we do something on that?
That was pulled.
That was the one that was pulled.
It was pulled. What does that mean?
He
They withdrew it.
withdrew
Oh,
his
he was withdrawn.
application. Yes.
Withdrawn. Okay.
So we're done with that.
So, okay.
Brian, you can go home, you got approved.
Excuse me, we have
Here
a,
he comes.
Go home, Brian.
Better late than never.
You've been approved.
Nice picket.
We went ahead without you.
The fence.
we have documentation that this was withdrawn. We have documentation that the applicant withdrew this application.
Thank you for coming in.
The email I sent is all I have, that they withdrew it.
That's documentation.
Yeah, they sent you an email saying we withdraw. Good enough, thank you.
Okay,
Brian Lee,
yes,
boy, didn't even thank us.
I know. We had to party without him. Okay, now we're down to agenda item 13, lucky 13, which is the vote for chairman and vice chairman. We have,
Madam Chairman,
yes, sir.
I move that we, since there are no other candidates, that we unanimously approve you as chairman and Doug Hayes as vice chairman.
Thank you. And
So that's a motion.
that's a motion.
That's a motion.
Do we have a second?
I'll second that.
Thank you. Good. Moved and second by unanimity.
I have to. I
Congratulations.
have to write the numbers down. Thank you. Madam Secretary, we have a motion on the floor to approve the nominations as they were made by Mr. McSweeney and seconded by Mr. Di Lorenzo. Would you call the roll, please?
Mr. McSweeney?
Yes.
Mr. Di Lorenzo?
Yes.
Councilman Les?
Yes.
Mr. Hayes?
Yes.
Councilwoman Blitz?
Yes.
And the motion carries.
On to new business. Anybody have any?
Oh,
Time,
Let me talk a little bit about the master plan. As I mentioned it last month, I'm going to mention it again. There's a resolution that's been introduced in the council. We're going to stop all actions coming through Department of Planning. And the date is up in the air. I think I saw something, they may actually change the date so we can get going on it. Well, what are we, 3 years behind or 4 years behind the master plan review now?
About 3 or so.
Okay, we must do it. And we don't want to, I mean, we're usually more up to date than the county is. They're going through they're doing something with theirs now, doing some listening sessions. So what I did suggest, I suggested it to the mayor, haven't heard any different, that we consider the review that was done of significant properties as part of this process, because they're going to have hearings. And they could, in fact, take a chunk of the hearings to talk about that portion of it. So that when the master plan review is done, hopefully in 6 or 7 or 8 or 10 or 12 months, last time it took about 12 months, that in fact we will have completed that portion. We've had the hearings, had the input. It'll come back to, the master plan will come back to the HDC and the Planning Commission, as I remember correctly. Is that correct?
It should definitely.
Yeah, it'll come back for us to look at. So again, that's why it made sense to include the significant property study as part of that process. They've got a lot of work to do back in the planning department on this document. This will set the tone for development redevelopment within the city and new development on the outskirts of the city if we annex properties for the next 10 years. There'll be an update in the midterm, but for 10 years. So, and again, it's going to be interesting to see what happens with Conterra. I keep saying Conterra because 30 years ago they kept saying they were going to do something. And
It's been a long time.
still got 2 pieces of property, one in Montgomery County and one on our side in Prince George's County. So I just wanted to bring you all up to date on what the council is doing. We have moved on that. It's on the agenda for Monday, and the could be action on it, on that document on the 27th, I think, 13th and 27th. First reading, then the 20, or maybe this week, I don't know. It depends what the council wants to do. Okay.
That's very good. I appreciate that.
I hate to say I don't know, because I don't know, because the mayor and the president and the president of the council, chairman of the council, and the vice chair had a meeting today, and they're discussing that issue.
He said he
sorry.
didn't know something.
That's all I know. I've told you everything I know.
No, I don't think you have.
And I do know that Sonny will be here, everybody will be here, because we're gonna have a budget introduced, I guess, within 2 weeks. And hopefully they've gotten all the money straightened away with the county. That's all I can tell you about that.
Well, I appreciate you telling us that.
Mhm.
Good update.
I'll tell you, you want another piece of information?
Absolutely.
I think I let everybody know, or maybe I didn't at the last meeting, that the Patuxent River Policy Plan was not introduced for adoption this session. So there was a meeting of myself and Councilwoman Sigate from Howard County with David Craig, the Secretary of Planning, the Deputy Chief of Staff for the Governor, the Chief of his policy group. We got assurances that they'll introduce it as a joint resolution next year. They had too much on their plate this year. And in fact, well, look, the governor's worried about the chicken poop issue. They're worried about, he's got a lot of things dealing with the environment. But let me just say this, the Patuxent River Commission is now operating under the revised policy plan because we've accepted it. We've got 7 counties to sign off and 17 districts are involved, congressional districts, and nobody said anything, so we're operating under that document already, even though it hadn't been adopted by the legislature. So the impact is not so much on this end of the Patuxent River, but on the other end, because the pollution starts from Laurel on down. I don't know, what do we got, a C or a B, C rating in our part of the river, I think.
I think it's a C.
C, but then it really gets bad as you go further south. Although they're making significant progress. Last thing. The building at the race course on the entrance to the Laurel race course, up on Route 1. There's another similar building at the Fort Meade Waterworks when you go across the 198 bridge. Those are pumping stations that will be pumping reclaimed water from the Western Branch sewage plant, and it'll be used for cooling at Fort Meade for the computers. Well, it'll be used for cooling towers. They're already using water at the ice cream plant for cooling. Okay, this is another situation where the state has made legislative provision, but they haven't put the rules in place. So they didn't wait in Howard County. They went ahead and they expended a lot of money to get those pumping stations in place. And the advantage to what goes back in the river, they lose 85% of the water when they do the cooling tower, when they throw the water up in the air and all that. And what's left in the 15% is a concentrated, anything that was left in the water when it came out of the plant is now concentrated to the point where they can reclaim more of that. The heavy metals, the phosphorus, the nitrogen, so the water ends up being even cleaner. when it goes in. See, because if they'd thrown the whole 100% in the river, it would have gotten to the bay. So again, there's a lot of things happening along the Patuxent River. And hopefully it will improve the water quality in the river, the watershed, and the bay eventually. A lot of things happening.
That's good. Any other new business? No? That being said, I have a motion to adjourn.
So
So
moved.
moved.
Thank you.
Sunny.